Hello and welcome to the Poor Hammer Podcast, episode 19. I'm your host, Brad. This is my co-host, Eric.
How's it going?
So let's jump into tonight's topic of I taught my wife how to play Warhammer 40k.
Ooh, this should be fun. Sounds good, man.
As you're aware, my wife collects Tyranid and Tau. She has primed all of her Tyranids and is figuring out what paint scheme she wants for them. And she has never once played a game.
Yeah, which isn't surprising, but it's about time.
Yeah. I finally got her to actually play a game with me to learn the rules and see if she would like it. So I asked her to flip through her codex and tell me based off the symbols, because she didn't really know about like force organization and all that. I just told her like, by symbol, tell me your favorite units in your codex. So for the HQs, she said of the ones she owned, the Hive Tyrant, particularly the winged one, was her favorite. So I had her play with a Swarm Lord as a normal Hive Tyrant to make things easy.
Fair enough.
Then for troops, she said all of them were great, but she really wants to play with Hormagaunts because she thinks they're adorable.
Okay.
And then heavy support, she's a big fan of the Carnifex.
Hell yeah, dude.
And who doesn't love a Carnifex? They're amazing.
It is actually a pretty cool model.
So I made her army very simple, 3 units.
I assume you helped building the Carnifex.
So the Carnifex and the Hive Tyrant, because they're super complex loadouts, the Carnifex is 3D printed. It's not like the official Carnifex model.
Yeah.
So we just went with WYSIWYG on it. It just had a pair of claws and the heavy venom cannon, which is totally normal. It's not like the best ever, but it's a totally fine loadout for a Carnifex.
That makes sense. It's just one of those, like, that has options. And, like, I can imagine, like, looking at it the first time and going, I don't know what the fuck to choose.
So I ended up giving her a Hive Tyrant, 10 Hormagaunts, and a Carnifex. Nice, simple. You got an HQ, a troop, and a heavy support. 2 big monsters and a swarm. We want to go easy on this. As it is, moving 10 Hormagaunts with how much those fuckers fall over was already a little bit of a chore.
So what did you play?
So I played Necrons.
Okay.
So I didn't have like a tank option on me because I'm at home and most of my Necrons are at my brother's house where I've been painting.
Yeah.
So I just played basic thing of an Overlord. I played 10 Necron Warriors to go super simple. And I played with 5 Lich Guard, and that gave me 370 points to her 375.
Okay. That seems reasonable.
I was like, good enough. We're playing 375 point game. I mean, technically, the rules say this is balanced. We both know the outcome is determined at list building at this point. There's no way those Necrons win.
No. It's going to be very tough.
So, did that. We ended up with the lists going into combat. So, I got out a card table. I put no terrain on the table.
Okay.
I made the size of play the size of the card table. Didn't fuck around with getting out an official playmat type thing. Didn't screw with objectives.
As long as the card table isn't like some massive thing, whatever, fuck it. It's good enough.
Yeah, it's just a normal ass card table that you sat at when you were at the kids' table.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I got that out. I gave us each a measuring tape. And in the open war rules in the core rulebook, there is destroy the enemy or something. I don't. It's got a dumb name. It's literally the just kill the other guy's models is the game mode.
Okay, sure.
It's like the we're not even playing objectives, kids.
Just like an annihilation kind of thing.
Yeah, it's you get a point for every unit you destroy.
Yeah, it'll make things easier to actually understand combat and.
We're going to have enough problem teaching her the rules of everything on a data sheet, especially for a Tyranid data sheet.
Right.
That we do not need to get into, hey, here's how light cover works. Hey, here's, objective secured. And I'm like, that can be for games 2 and 3. And she knew going in, she's seen us play before. She understood we play an objective-based game, and we care about staying on points, and we care about cover and all that. And she was like, are we going to play with all that? And I was like, not for game 1. You're already going to hate the amount of rules. Let's get these ones cemented when they're instinct. Then in game 2 or 3, we'll start adding in more rules.
So you got 2 lists. It's on annihilation or whatever, just fucking kill shit.
So I had us set up. I had her go first. I was like, we roll for first, but we're having you go first because we have to walk you through a turn anyway. So what we did first was I had her get out sticky notes.
Okay.
I was like, so, this is the sub-faction. we're going to use a static ability from it, but we're not actually using the rules of your sub-faction. I just kept it super simple so we could walk through the details. And I learned, or relearned, because I had some of these opinions myself, but through her, I learned several things about the rules. And I think that's where the interest in this comes from, other than just a story. So the first thing is, if you haven't seen it, in the new codex, the Carnifex and the Hive Tyrant, they're in-book datasheet, not like the Battlescribe abbreviated version where it doesn't show you shit that doesn't matter.
Okay.
But the actual on-page version, that big-ass codex, top to bottom, tiny font.
Nice.
They have like 1,000 words, like a small script. It would take so long to read off one of those data sheets. And since it didn't have like the Battlescribe Smart showing you only the weapons you need,
Yeah.
because those each have like 10 weapons.
Right.
So she has the whole list of weapons that thing can equip. All of the upgrades, because oh my god, both of those units can have like 100 upgrades.
Yeah, I remember looking at the Carnifex real quick, and like, there's a lot of options.
So I was like, we'll give you enhanced senses. It's 10 points, and it makes you a 375. I showed her like how in the book to like figure out what something costs and all that. I walked her through that. I had her deal with the whole list building aspect. So the first thing was, oh my god, there is so many rules on a data sheet that should not be there all the time. And I was like, this kind of gets into the whole digital rules are much better.
That's fair.
So anyway, that was the first thing we learned. So I walked her through a turn. It was kind of fun because she lit up a little bit at the psychic phase.
Hell yeah, dude. Let's go.
It was the thing that clicked. I feel like psychers are like the thing for a new person when they're like, oh shit, I get to cast a spell? This feels unfair. I thought we were hitting with swords and guns, and here I'm throwing lightning bolts.
Psychic is the most fun phase. By far. It's just the coolest part.
So we didn't play around with any of like the weird once per game on one turn, everything that's in synaptic link range gets a bonus thing. We didn't play with any of that. We played just like, here's the synapse ability. That means your shit passes morale if it's in 6 inches. We're playing with that.
Yeah. Yeah, the entire like fucking synaptic link range stuff is annoying.
Though she figured out synaptic link range and understood how it would work if she had multiple of them, which she did not in this army.
Okay.
But she was like, oh, I get it. So I can cast through my other psychers. So if we were on a big board, I'd be able to cast all the way over there. I'm like, congratulations, you have figured out tactics.
Yes.
I guess backgrounds, my wife plays a shitload of tactics games and strategy games. She plays like every Fire Emblem, if you can think of a grid-based, she's played it. So it's very sarcastic telling my wife that she's figured out the basics of tactics. She's a horrifying machine at that shit. I should show the notebooks one day she keeps on games.
She's played just a few thousand hours in Fire Emblem.
Oh my god.
But yeah, she definitely knows like tactic style games. So like that isn't something that really needs to be taught so much as like how to apply the knowledge to 40k.
I think the big thing for her was I had her cast Onslaught, which allows for advance and charge. I taught her the movement types in the movement phase. And I taught her, like, if you advance, you can't charge. But advance anyway, and we'll get into why that's a good idea with these Hormigons. Then in the Psychic phase, I showed her Onslaught, and I was like, now, if you successfully cast this spell, you can still charge even though you advanced. And it, like, all clicked. And she was like, oh, complexity. I see how to do this.
Yeah.
But Onslaught went off.
Cool.
Hormigons got to advance and charge. They made the charge easy. The Carnifex kind of just waddled forward, shot me, and that was it. Same with Hive Tyrant. Came forward, shot me with a heavy venom cannon, that was it.
Fair enough.
So shooting was like the heavy venom cannons. I think she removed one Lich Guard between the two of them firing.
Sure.
Then the Hormigons charged, got into combat with the warriors. She rolled a shitload of dice. She got to reroll because of Hive Tyrant. So she got to experience rerolling ones, which was delicious.
Nice.
Anyway, so she got to experience all that. She liked that part, but explaining fight phase, I tried not to, like, overdo it. I explained, like, okay, so pile in, you just shove your models 3 inches closer. You just get comfy. Then we attack, and then you consolidate, and the Hormigons have consolidate 6. but it didn't come up on turn 1 because she didn't wipe out the warriors. So turn 1, she gets the charge off, she does the fight, she kills like 4 warriors, I think it was, and then I rolled the hottest I've ever rolled on reanimation protocols and brought 3 back.
Holy shit, dude. That never happens.
It was amazing, considering my Lich Guard died like a little bitch. So, the end of her turn 1 was I was down a Lich Guard and a warrior. So I was in pretty good shape.
Yeah, it's not bad.
I walked her through my turn. We used my turn to explain falling back because I fell back with the warriors.
Okay.
I had the Lich Guard charge into Hormagaunts. I showed her what a counter charge is. She was very familiar of how this type of stuff works from other types of games. But basically I was like, now that you're out of position, I have my unit that's better at killing your unit. Come in and beat them.
Mm-hmm.
Basically you took bait and now you get punished for it. So I wiped out the Hormagaunts with the Lich Guard. So that basically summed up my turn because I don't even think I got to shoot a shot. It was hilarious because Necrons.
Did you go through like toughness and strength and stuff like that actually matters for rolling before the game?
That was the meat and potatoes of dealing with shooting and fight phase.
Yeah.
And that's why it was very long. And this is one of the other lessons we learned. I knew it from my own experience with it, but the first time you see a data sheet, like the stat line, it's a goddamn mess.
It really is.
It's even more of a mess because, like, save comes after leadership.
Which has always confused me. And I've honestly looked at that a few times and been like, what the fuck? Oh, right. Wrong one. Just because I assume.
You get into, like, ranged attacks, show how many attacks on the weapon, and then the melee attacks just says melee, and you have to go up to your attack characteristic to figure it. There's a whole lot of shit on a datasheet that could be improved. We looked at the Hormagaunt first. I taught her with the Hormagaunt for how to read a datasheet.
That one's a pretty generic datasheet, if I recall.
Then she got to the Hive Tyrant and went, oh, it's got 3 lines. And she was like, which one do I... Oh, I figured it out. This is... Okay, so as he takes damage, he goes down. I was like, bingo.
Yep. Nice.
And it's nice because in the new rule books, it showed red to show what gets worse as the damage gets hit. So it was nice that she was able to see all that. So that was a positive. But the actual, like, dealing with how weapon skill, ballistic skill, especially strength and toughness.
Yeah, strength and toughness makes sense. Because, like, once you understand, like, weapon skill and ballistic skill, it's not too difficult. You just, like, look at the thing and it is what it is. But, like, the strength and toughness, especially because weapons have different strengths, right? Like, the variable kind of thing. I can understand that. That was kind of confusing the first time that I was playing. Again, was like, why am I a strength 7, but this gun is strength 9? Like, what do I use? Like, I'm firing with this gun, but it has strength 7 or strength 6 or whatever.
And then the strength and toughness table is not that hard, but it's a layer of complexity that is not visible through just like the codex rules. You have to have the actual core rules out to figure out how that functions. And it's something you internalize. I was able to like walk her through that and show her it, but she kept on like getting a little overwhelmed when we were trying to like on turn 3. We were like trying to finish up the game and I was like, okay, 3's to wound, and she was like, wait, what? And then she was like, oh, okay, because and she's like working out why it's 3's to wound, but I've internalized it by this point to not have to do the mental math.
Yeah.
That was an interesting one to remember again, how fucking annoying that is. But the wounds wasn't too bad to figure out. It helped that she had an example of a model that was 1 wound, one that had multiple wounds but didn't decay, and then the Hive Tyrant had a decaying wound table. So it was nice. That was by accident. I wasn't that intelligent when putting her list together. I just asked her what she liked.
I think that was the correct decision. Like, you could have been smart about stuff and like made it work, but like having the models that like you enjoy and you think are cool are going to be more exciting to play with the first time anyways.
Yeah.
Than something that's like, oh, big brain, I'm going to teach you all those things. I mean, that's exciting. I'm interested to hear about how the second game goes, on how much like stuck like in the forefront, but also how much like is just like, oh yeah, I remember that.
So we finished the game, and I asked her, like, so what'd you think? And she was like, I think I need to sit down with the codex and get out a notebook and start writing some stuff down. And I was like, God damn, I love you, bitch. It's the most my wife response to trying out a new game and getting hooked.
That's exciting, dude. I mean, that is honestly pretty exciting to hear that she enjoyed playing it enough to maybe play it again instead of just be hobby side.
All right, that does it for this episode. That was kind of just us talking, but with you here.
Yeah, story time.
Hopefully it was entertaining. We tried to tie some lessons into it. All right, so let's get to the outro for the week.